Joining me now is the former Liberal Minister and Principal at Z Advisory, Z Seselja, and former Labor Advisor, Eamonn Fitzpatrick. Gentlemen, great to see you both. Eamonn, it's quite the spat, that between the Premier and Shadow Minister.
Oh, it's pretty messy, isn't it, Kieran? I've got to say, though, Mark McGowan is a very formidable Premier in his own right, and he is simply just speaking up for the people of his state. He's never shied away from this, by the way. His position has been consistent all the way through. What is good for the West Australian economy is good for the people of Western Australia. And, you know, he is not the first at the moment. Obviously, we've seen Daniel Andrews go. But by the way, Australia's actually lagging a bit. We've seen the French president go to China. There's been countless EU trade delegations. The United Kingdom have been in and out consistently over the past 12 months. Everybody is trying to restore their trade relationships with China. So I'm pretty surprised Andrew Hastie's reacted the way he has. And I would say, I think the people of Western Australia have spoken. You just look at Mark McGowan's majority and you look at the last federal result.
Z Seselja, there's no doubt that Andrew Hastie gave the Premier both barrels. I asked him, was it a political risk to do so? He says no, that people want to change and he's going to call it as he sees it. He did not hold back, Zed.
Is completely within his rights to respond to what is a pretty immature performance from Mark McGowan. Now, Eamonn can point to the fact that he won a large majority, but that doesn't give him the excuse to carry on like a pork chop overseas. And he is on a trip in China, which we were told was going to have lots of media coverage. I understand most of that media coverage hasn't been able to happen, and it's a heavily curated trip, and all we're getting from it is him bagging Australians while he's over there. What Mark McGowan doesn't seem to understand is what even people like Penny Wong have articulated just in the last day or so about the Chinese military build-up, the strategic challenges we face. Yes, of course, we want a trading relationship. We'll continue to have a great trading relationship with China, but you don't do it by sacrificing your principles, including things like a free and open media.
Eamonn Fitzpatrick, the dust has settled a bit on the new front bench for Peter Dutton. Really gone from one side of the debate on the Voice to the complete opposite with his spokesperson, from Julian Leeser, who has been an advocate for the Voice for a long time, to now Jacinta Nampijinpa Price, who is one of the more vocal and most prominent members of the No campaign.
Yeah, you've got to say this has to be one of the most sort of challenging periods I think any leader has ever had to deal with. And, you know, clearly he's hoping to draw a line under what's been a really messy period. You know, and that's borne out by opinion polls even today. So people can see through the sort of, you know, chaos where there's disunity and they just don't like it. I mean, the truth is, Australia, the Australian electorate has moved on. They're looking for something positive. They don't just want to see the negative all the time. And I think that's been a huge mistake on Peter Dutton's part. I think in appointing Senator Price, he's put in a very effective communicator. No doubt about that. And maybe that's his way of trying to restore some of that balance. But I think it's been a very messy period, confused messaging. No one really knows what's going on.
Z Seselja, it is all in now on the No campaign for Mr Dutton, and a lot riding on that for him and his leadership, the outcome in October.
I think it's a very important referendum. It's very important for the future of the country and much more important than short-term politics, I would say. Jacinta's an extraordinary performer. I think aside from, and I agree with Eamonn, she's very, very talented, but it's not in any way negative in the way that Jacinta has taken up the cause of Indigenous communities, particularly remote Indigenous communities where she has spent a lot of her life, and she will do an extraordinary job, I've got no doubt. One of the things I think it will, you know, we've heard some who advocate for the yes, say by implication or in some cases more directly, suggesting that anyone who argues no is somehow coming from a racist position. I think that's going to be impossible with a forceful Indigenous activist like Jacinta. Representing a large chunk of the No case, including leading the charge for the coalition. So she will do an extraordinary job. and I think it may well change a lot of the dynamics of the debate.
Eamonn, just a couple of weeks now till the budget. Jim Chalmers second. The Economic Inclusion Advisory Committee has come back with a predictable but much needed call for on JobSeeker, but it just does not seem like it's going to be on the government's radar, certainly not to the scope that the committee is called for in terms of an increase of 90, to get it to 90% of the age pension, Eamonn.
Yeah, well, Kieran, there isn't just an endless pot of cash. That's the truth. Jim Chalmers has made that clear, as has the Prime Minister. And what they are trying to do is live within our means. You know, he's made it very clear the priority has to be the cost of living relief, where that can be provided. And that's where this is going. You know, I'm sure, you know, if there was an endless pot of cash, we'd be funding many, many things. But it's just not within reach. The priority is just restoring the stability of, things we can pay for, program funding, and the things that really are absolutely critical at the moment, and repair the state of our national budget.
The other point, Zed Seselja, is that they have to avoid any inflationary impact right now.
I don't think the government could have accepted these recommendations. I don't think it would be the right thing for the economy, for the budget, for all sorts of signals that it would send in the welfare space to have the rate of job seeker at that sort of level. Remember, this committee was part of a deal, I understand, that was the price of David Pocock's vote for industrial relations legislation. And I think that legislation that went through, I think the price of that vote is looking very, very cheap when, you get up a committee that makes a bunch of recommendations and it's absolutely dismissed on day one by the Treasurer.
Zed Seselja, Eamonn Fitzpatrick, gents, see you soon.